What's up, Bucs fans and Pewter people? Bailey Adams from PewterReport.com back with you as we continue our Bucs 50 most memorable games series, which will take us all the way up to week 1 of the 2025 regular season, the Bucs' 50th season as an NFL franchise. We are now on to week 7 of this series, which means we're well past the halfway mark, 30 games down, and we will be through 35 games after this week as we have games 31 through 35 coming up today. We'll keep it going with 5 games at a time for the next few Thursdays until we wrap up with games 46 through 50, just days before Tampa Bay's season opener at Atlanta. If you missed last week's video, we covered games 26 through 30 on our list, and those fell between 2005 and 2010. Of course, that video is right here on our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel if you want to catch up. Of course, all of our previous stops on this journey are on the Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. If you want to go all the way back to the beginning, if you're jonesing for some Bucs football and you want to look back on some pretty fun memories over the years before the season starts, those are all right here on the Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. This week we pick back up in 2012, and I do want to say I'm recording this on 8/13 day, so shout out to everyone in the Tampa area. If you're local, if you've always been local, your family's local like myself, it's a fun day to celebrate our home, and that's why I've got the Super Bowl 35 hat on from 2001. This is my grandpa's hat, so I had to wear that one for this recording of this video. But, of course, we're not in 2001 in this series. We are into 2012, and we are, of course, going to a famous Doug Martin game, one of 2, actually, that we'll be covering on this week's video. This one came in Oakland, and this was Doug Martin returning home to Oakland to run all over the Raiders. He ran for 251 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game. He became the first player in NFL history to have 250-plus rushing yards and 4 touchdowns in a single game. And he was also the first player in NFL history to have rushing touchdowns of 70-plus, 65-plus, and 45-plus yards in the same game. It was just long run after long run, touchdown after touchdown. His 251 rushing yards broke the single-game franchise record previously held by James Wilder, who had 219 in 1983. And the 251 rushing yards also tied for the 3rd most by a rookie in NFL history. Adrian Peterson had 296 in 2007, and DeMarco Murray with 253 in 2011, those being the only rookies to rush for more yards in a game. So it really wasn't until late, though, that Doug Martin ran wild in this game. It was a lot more even early on. It was the Bucs trailing 10-7 at halftime. The only score was a 20-yard touchdown pass from Josh Freeman to Vincent Jackson. But then Doug Martin entered the fray. He got a 45-yard rushing touchdown in the 3rd before Mike Williams caught a 4-yard touchdown from Freeman. And then Martin broke loose again, 67-yard touchdown run. Bucs were up big. Raiders got back within 28-17 early in the 4th, but then it was a 70-yard touchdown run from Doug Martin, keeping it going there. It got dicey from the Bucs from there, though, as the Raiders got within 35-32. But then with 1:49 left, it was Doug Martin once again getting in from 1 yard out to seal the deal. The Bucs winning 42-32 on this day in Oakland. It was very much about Doug Martin in this one. It was a return home. It was an all-time rushing performance, not just in Bucs history, but NFL history, really. And him doing so as a rookie was a sign of things to come for later that year and the great rookie season that he had. Leonard Johnson, Ahmad Black, and E.J. Biggers all had interceptions of Carson Palmer in the game. The E.J. Biggers interception effectively ended the game later on. Levante David also was a big star in this one. It was his rookie year as well. He set a Buccaneer rookie record with 16 tackles in this game. So this was actually, a big game offensively, obviously, and pretty for giving up 32 points. It was there was a lot going on the Buccaneer defense as well. It was Tampa Bay's first win over the Raiders in Oakland, and it got the Bucs to 4-4. They would get to 6-4, but then they lost 5 straight to fall out of contention. But nonetheless, a very memorable game in Buccaneer history, thanks in large part to Doug Martin, muscle hamster, the Duggernaut, whatever you want to call him. I think he prefers Duggernaut. Not a big fan of the muscle hamster nickname, of course, but look at that guy. I mean, that was quite the performance from number 22. A very, very, I think, often overlooked guy in Buccaneer history because he had his ups and downs. He had this great rookie year and then fell off for a couple years, and he had another great year a few years later, which we will get on to now, actually. It was in 2015, this game against the Eagles in Philadelphia. It was a 5-touchdown day for Jameis Winston, so we'll get on to Doug Martin in a second, but 5-touchdown day for Jameis Winston. This was his rookie year. And the Jameis era, everybody knows, it certainly had its ups and downs, but this was a particular highlight during the first year for the number 1 overall pick. The Bucs built a 21-7 lead on passing touchdowns from Winston to Mike Evans, a 4-yarder, and then he also hit Vincent Jackson for a 13-yard touchdown, and he hit Russell Shepard for a 4-yard touchdown. Continuing on, he hit Charles Sims for a 14-yard touchdown later on, and then an 8-yard touchdown from Jameis to Cam Brate gave the Bucs a 35-14 lead going into the fourth. So 5 passing touchdowns for Jameis Winston to 5 different receivers in this one. It was a masterful performance from the rookie. The exclamation point for this game, or in this game, was a 20-yard pick six by Levante David with 4:16 to go. He obviously, sealing the deal there in a Bucs 45-17 win on November 22nd, 2015. A very memorable one. Obviously, Jameis being the star here, having 5 touchdowns and 246 yards on 19 of 29 passing. And Doug Martin, who I was just talking about, he ran 27 times for 235 yards in this game. That helped the Bucs take a 35-54 to 24-06 time of possession advantage. So they really just controlled possession, controlled this game, and absolutely dominated the Eagles. And as many times as the Eagles have popped up on this list, I think they still might be on there 1 or 2 more times in the coming weeks. But as many times they've been on this list, this might be one of the bigger blowouts and one of the more satisfying games for the Bucs, obviously outside of the playoff games and all that. But a 5-touchdown day for the rookie quarterback. Also, you see that 40th season patch. Hard to believe that we're now in the 50th season in 2025, and just Jameis Winston's rookie year was that 40th season for the Buccaneers in 2015. Speaking of Levante David, though, who I just said had the pick 6 to end this game, David's pick 6 was one of 2 interceptions on the day for him, and Chris Conte also added one. So a big day for the Buccaneers defense as they limited the Eagles to 17 points, and the Bucs get 45 points on the board from their offense. When you look at this list and this week's video as a whole, you see a lot of points on this list. This was kind of the theme of this week 7 in our series, because the next one we do move on to 2018, and it's the season opener, led by Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Bucs in New Orleans at the Superdome on September 9th, 2018. Jameis Winston was serving a 3-game suspension to start the season, so it was Fitz, the journeyman quarterback, starting under center for Tampa Bay, and there was a combined score of 88 points in this game. It was the NFL record for a Week 1 game, and at the time, the Bucs tied what was a franchise record for points in a game, tying the 48 they scored in Super Bowl 37 against the Raiders. So opening things up in 2018 with a big performance from Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Saints started the scoring early, but then it was Fitzpatrick hitting Deshaun Jackson for a deep 58-yard touchdown. From there, Ryan Fitzpatrick ran for a 3-yard touchdown to make it 14-10 after 1 quarter. And then later on, it was a 17-17 game before Fitz threw a 9-yard touchdown pass to Chris Godwin. And then Justin Evans came up with a big play, returning a fumble, 34 yards for a touchdown. The Bucs lead, led 31-17, and that lead became a 34-24 lead before Mike Evans entered the conversation here with a big touchdown catch, beating Marshawn Lattimore for a 50-yard touchdown, making it 41-24. It looked like the route was on from there. It looked like this was going to be an easy Bucs win, a surprisingly easy Bucs win on opening day, but it didn't turn out that way. 36-yard touchdown pass from Fitzpatrick to Deshaun Jackson, then made it 48-24. But that's when New Orleans kind of got back into it. They scored 2 touchdowns and had 2 2-point conversions to make it 48-40, putting some pressure on the Bucs after they once led by as many as what was it? It was a 24-point game. But Ryan Fitzpatrick would come through late as the hero, as he was for much of this day. He ran for 12 yards on 3rd and 11 to secure the victory late on. The Bucs win 48-40 in Week 1. It was Fitzpatrick, 21-28, 417 yards and 4 touchdowns. He rushed 12 times for 36 yards and a touchdown in this game. 5 total touchdowns for Fitzpatrick. Fitz magic, as he earned NFC Offensive Player of the Week honors. he would go on to win it again in week 2 after a great performance in week 2. And that's when we see this that you see on the screen here. We see him wearing the Deshaun Jackson fit after the game in the press conference, and really the defining picture and the defining image of Fitzmagic in Tampa Bay. But a 48-40 win for the Bucs in this one. Mike Evans caught 7 passes for 147 yards and a touchdown. And it was Deshaun Jackson. He caught 5 passes for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Quan Alexander and Vernon Hargraves III both forced fumbles in this one. A very big win for the Bucs over the Saints in the Superdome to start the season. More points. If you want more points, we're moving on to our 34th game on this list. It is September 29th, 2019. The Bucs in Los Angeles at the Coliseum to face the Rams. Of course, this was before SoFi Stadium opened and all that. So the Bucs were taking on the Rams out west. This was the team's record points game. 55 points on the board for the Bucs in this one. They beat the Rams 55-40 in just a crazy game. If you remember, I mean, it was an insane game from start to finish, really. This was the NFC champion, defending NFC champion Rams, of course, who they had lost the previous year to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So they're at home, and the Bucs go up 21-0 early on. They had a 3-yard Peyton Barber touchdown, a 3-yard touchdown pass from Jameis Winston to Chris Godwin, and then it was a 9-yard touchdown pass from Jameis Winston to Chris Godwin. There's Chris Godwin there. Wearing the number 12. It's almost weird how many years it's been now since he's worn that number 12, and how everyone's so much more used to him wearing number 14 after Tom Brady got here. But there he is in the number 12, 2 touchdowns early in the game to help build a 21-0 lead. From there, Todd Gurley ran for a 13-yard touchdown, and Jared Goff threw a 5-yard touchdown to Gerald Everett. That got the Rams back within 21-14. Ronald Jones II ran for a 5-yard touchdown to go back up by 14, but then 2 Greg Zuerlein field goals got the Rams back within 8, 28-20, before a 58-yard field goal by Matt Gay. Remember how up and down and how wild of a rookie season it was for Matt Gay. He hits a 58-yarder in this one to make it 31-20 going into the fourth. And that's 51 combined points right there between the two teams, but the scoring really started in the fourth quarter. Jameis Winston getting back in on the action, hitting Mike Evans for a 67-yard touchdown. That's the one I think that I remember very vividly, with Mike Evans hitting the LeBron celebration afterwards. And I think that drew some attention from LeBron, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp then bounced back for the Rams, getting a 29-yard touchdown before Marcus Peters had a 32-yard pick six off of Jameis Winston to make it 45-40. The Bucs then went up 48-40 from there, and even when the Rams looked like they might start to get back into it, it was actually a former Ram. It was Ndamukong Suh picking up a fumble, returning it 37 yards for a touchdown to seal the 55-40 win in this game. He gets greeted, of course, on the sideline by his coaches, by his teammates, by Bruce Arians there, as he's triumphant in his return to face the Rams. Jameis Winston in this one, outside of that pick six, he was pretty masterful in this one as well. He was 28 of 41 for 385 yards, 4 touchdowns, and the pick. Chris Godwin caught those 12 passes for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns to lead all receivers. Jared Goff threw the ball 68 times in this game. He was 45 of 68 for 517 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he did have 3 interceptions, throwing them to Shaq Barrett, Levante David, and Jordan Whitehead. Barrett also had the sack fumble that Suh returned for the touchdown. And even Robert Woods for the Rams, catching 13 of his 15 targets for 164 yards. When you've got a receiver go for 164 yards and you've got a quarterback who throws the ball for 517 yards, losing that game is tough. But it is, Jared Goff throwing 3 picks definitely isn't going to help matters. The Bucs do win this one 55-40 back in 2019. And that would be the final game that we have on this list from the Jameis era, as we are already in to 2020 when Tom Brady, the GOAT, arrives in Tampa Bay. And he arrived in 2020. Obviously, it was a weird year with COVID and all that. And the Bucs got out to a 2-1 start. They lost the opener against New Orleans and then won their next 2 against Carolina and Denver. But this game against the Chargers back at Raymond James Stadium, to me, felt like the real arrival for the GOAT in Tampa Bay. It was kind of just a classic Tom Brady comeback kind of story, in a game that the Bucs weren't necessarily used to winning. It was just kind of the Brady mentality that it felt like Fed finally arrived here. The Bucs go up early. They go up 3-yard touchdown pass from Brady to Cam Brate that opened the scoring. But then it was rookie Justin Herbert who led the Chargers on a 24-0 run to make it 24-7. The Bucs looked like they were in dire straits. It was still pretty early, but they were down 24-7. It felt like in any other year they might be out of it, but Tom Brady is your quarterback. You feel like you're going to still be in the game. And it was the defense that had to step up and make a big play as Ndamukong Suh lit up Joshua Kelly to force a fumble deep in the Los Angeles territory, and that was recovered by Devin White. 3 plays later, Tom Brady hooks up in the end zone with Mike Evans, hitting him for a 6-yard touchdown, making it 24-14. And Brady continued to lead the comeback in the third quarter, connecting with O.J. Howard for a 28-yard touchdown halfway through the third. And then it was Scotty Miller catching a 19-yard touchdown late in the quarter, making it 28-24 in favor of the Bucs. That kind of felt like, all right, the Bucs, they survived the early onslaught from the Chargers. They're back in control here, but the Chargers weren't done. It was Herbert responding with a 72-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Guyton to end the third quarter, giving the lead back to the visitors. But then it was Brady again for the 5th time, throwing a touchdown to his 5th different receiver. So 2 games on this list where a Bucs quarterback throws 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. This one was for Keyshawn Vaughn, the rookie running back out of Vanderbilt, a 9-yard touchdown catch out of the backfield. Ryan Suckup then connected on a 26-yard field goal with 2:40 to go. So the Bucs had built that lead back up before Carlton Davis sealed the deal with an interception, picking off Justin Herbert to kind of close out the game. This was a 17-point comeback that Tom Brady led for the Bucs. He threw for 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers, as I said, threw for 369 yards on 30 of 46 passing, really kind of just taking the offense and taking this team and putting it on its back, as he would do pretty often throughout the course of his Buccaneer career. But it really just felt like the arrival, and it felt different for the first time in a while that, the Bucs had not only the Bucs have a quarterback that they could rely on to do that kind of thing, but it was Tom Brady. It just felt so surreal. And I think this was maybe the one of the moments where it really started to feel more real that Tom Brady was the Buccaneer quarterback. Ronald Jones II ran for 111 yards and on 20 carries. Mike Evans caught 7 passes for 122 yards and a touchdown. And both Shaq Barrett and Jordan Whitehead had sacks. This game would get the Bucs out to a 3-1 start on their way to a 6-2 start, of course. Later on that season, there was a little bit of a slide before the turnaround that led to Super Bowl 55. But, of course, we're running out of time. We're out of time on this video. You know what's coming next week in week 8 of this series. But this is where we leave off right here. We're 35 games down. We've got 15 games to go over the next 3 weeks. And, of course, we will pick back up in 2020 next week. And you can bet that whole video will center around the 2020 season, a magical year for the Buccaneers. Completely, just it's still hard to kind of fathom how that year ended up. But I want to thank you guys for watching this video, following along with this series. Hope you're enjoying the look back on Buccaneer history on the way to the 50th season. Speaking of which, the 50th season's well underway. We've had a preseason game under our belt. The boys, Matt Matera and Adam Slavon, are in Pittsburgh right now for the joint practice on Thursday. And we got the exhibition, exhibition schedule rolls on Saturday against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and then the preseason finale next week against the Bills. So we are full steam ahead to the Bucs 50th season opening up in week 1 against the Falcons. Of course, be sure to stay tuned to pewterreport.com and Pewter Report TV and all of our social channels at Pewter Report over the next few weeks as we continue to wrap up training camp and get into the regular season. We've got all of our normal preseason content. We'll have some preview content as well, and then we'll get right into it with our normal weekly content for each game, and it'll be so exciting for this season, the 50th season in Bucs history. So keep following along at Pewter Report, pewterreport.com, Pewter Report TV, and thanks again for watching this video, for your support always. We'll see you next time for another edition of the Bucs 50 Most Memorable Games.